welcome to another episode of Inquiring Minds. I'm Steve Harper, and with me, as always, is my illustrious co-host, Donna Carlin. Donna, how are you doing today?
I'm really good. This is a different kind of conversation, so
Yeah.
really looking forward to it.
Well, it's a great one because it's an opportunity for us to actually leverage a question that came from one of our audience members, which I think is fantastic. And it's something that we would love to encourage all of you that are watching or listening, however you're picking up the Inquiring Mind episode. When you've got these thoughts or you have specific challenges that you want to put on the table, Donna and I would love for you to put those forward because it gives us an opportunity to really make sure that we're crafting content that benefits you.
Oh, definitely. And this one is a little bit different and a little edgier. I always wonder, why do people pose these questions in the first place?
Yeah.
And, boy, to get to the nitty gritty and figure that one out. But don't have that opportunity. We have the topic, and, we look forward to hearing from the person who posed this question if we addressed it in the way that he would like us to have addressed it. So,
absolutely.
Are you ready to dive in?
Yeah, let's dive in. Do you want to pose it?
Sure. So the question that was posed to us was, how do you confront a liar, especially if that person is an integral part of your company? And I'm going, oh boy, would I have fun with this one.
Yeah.
And then Steve's going to have to throw a hockey puck at me in order to do that. So, that is that's a powerful question. And I wish that listener was here right now for us to have a conversation with him.
Well, I have a little bit of background. That person happens to be a high-ranking executive within their company. And there is a lot of entanglements. I don't know the specifics, but I do believe from just a general knowledge of the environment that they may actually be co-founders. And that presents a whole lot of unique challenges and obstacles as well. But this is a good one because I think a lot of times for a lot of our audience members, whether it's someone that you're working with or engaged in a professional capacity,
right.
The fact that, we're going to have this. I've had it. I've personally experienced it myself in my own company with people that have not been truthful, and it really does create some challenges, right? But for this particular situation, I mean, just handling the question as it was posed is, how do you confront a liar means that they're trying to build up the courage to have the conversation about, hey, you've said something that is not true. And of course, we don't have any context, right? We don't know if this is impacting customers. We don't know if it's impacting the employees. We don't know what the actual lie was, but we have what we have. So how do you approach this question, and what are your thoughts?
Oh, there's many ways of approaching this. And, the first thing that comes to my mind is, why would you want to confront somebody who lies?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to take this apart just for a minute. The reason I'm saying that is, if the person is in fact a liar, and that's how they are labeled here, how do you confront a liar? So that tells me it's not somebody who's only done this one off to protect themselves or whatever it is. If they're dubbed a liar, my question is, why are you dealing with somebody anyway who's a liar? And there was a question that I had posed to a client, and I can't remember the exact words of it. It was in effect, if everyone on your team behaved like this, would you still hire them? And if they say yes, I would worry about them.
Yeah.
That aside, there are many ways of looking at this. Brene Brown put together a video, The Anatomy of Trust, that the acronym is BRAVING. And a lot of that goes to integrity, and that you are your word, not just once, but all the time. And I really recommend to our listeners to watch her video on the anatomy of trust, because especially this individual, because it really gives you insight into yourself and how you deal with people in your world. The question, really remains, it's not about confronting. It's about looking the person in the face and saying, In this instance, because you could only speak to one instance. If you do generalities, you always lie. No, because that person's going to give you every single instance where they haven't.
Yeah.
So you pick one instance where you absolutely know that they told you a lie. White lie, huge lie, it doesn't matter. They purposefully told you something that was not true. That to me is what a lie is.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, the question that you pose is, this occurred. I know it was not true. I know it wasn't factual. I need, because you're speaking about yourself, I
Yeah.
need to know that I can trust you. If I need to second guess everything you say to me and I don't believe it, that is a fundamental breakdown in our relationship. How are we going to address this?
Yeah.
So it's not, I need you to do this, because you're not going to be able to trust that individual if they perpetually lie. If you say, how are we going to address this to the point where that trust is rebuilt? Because there is no other way forward. And it's you don't want to know why that person's lying. You don't know, like, unless they're breaking the law, in which case you might be liable for something.
Yeah.
You don't want to know the rationale behind. He or she might want to feel bigger than they are, or more important than they are, and tell you they did something when they didn't, or place blame. When you place blame, obviously you're feeding your ego. Responsibility and trust actually builds something amazing. You
Yeah.
don't get that through the blame game. So you just throw it out there, and it's stating the fact, asking how we, the two of us, are going to be addressing this so that trust could be rebuilt.
Yeah.
And then you just stay quiet and you see what the person says. If they rationalize the lie, the response is, this is exactly why trust has been implicated, because you're rationalizing the lie rather than helping me and you figure out how to not do this anymore.
Yeah.
So you're actually going back to the lie, not, I don't care what reason there is. If you could, habitually lie to me, there is no trust. And we cannot work without trust. I need to be able to trust everybody on the team.
Yeah.
So therefore, what's going to change? How will I trust that that will be a continuous thing, not a one-off? And how will we keep checking in to make sure that's no longer, because there's not a second chance and a third chance. That person needs to come to terms with the fact that if this person habitually lies, if you put up with it, you're condoning it. And if you're condoning it, you're agreeing with the lie that's been told. And that's going to impact the trust that people have in you, not
Yeah.
the other person, for not addressing the lie. So just pay attention to how people are viewing you, what they're seeing in you, and whether or not they still trust you. Because if not, that's a whole other ballgame.
Sure. No, I love how you outline that, and it's a great way to approach it. I look at the language of the question, confront, because it seems like it's now come to a head. Maybe this particular lie is a tipping point, and not knowing the other circumstances, but I find the use of confront being important because I think it implies that, hey, I've reached a point that I can no longer tolerate. And so your approach there, I
Yeah.
think, makes a lot of sense. The other aspect of, I think, the way that they phrased the question was that really caught me, and you picked up on it right away as well, as they were already labeling them a liar. So there is already the, in this person's mind, a character issue with this person. And then the other aspect is a little bit of fear in the question. This is an integral part of the company. So how do I tread, this situation, so that, we don't upset that apple cart. And, it's interesting to me because I think, if it was a situation like you said where you could no longer tolerate being in there, then you have to, somehow evacuate yourself from the situation, whether that's, hey, do I want to work here? Do I want to work with this person? Is this someone that I want to continue to be in business with? What are the implications of the lie, and how do they impact our employees or our customers or our brand or reputation? There's a lot to unpack, and it is one of those situations where this is probably not an isolated event. It's a situation where if this is something where you don't see an immediate path forward, where addressing it and having that conversation where how do I rebuild the trust? How do we work on this together to fix it? Then my advice is that you have to bring somebody in order to really help you navigate these waters, because there's a high risk challenge here, right? Because this could become a legal matter. It could affect your brand and reputation, and like you said, and I think probably paramount to all of that is it may affect how everybody looks at you in terms of how you handle it, or how they might view whether you're condoning it or not. And so there's some really unique challenges, and I think that one of the things that I would put forward is that you have to look, is this a one-time event or has this been an ongoing event? I've got to read into the question because I don't have the context to know more about this particular situation, but I have to imagine that maybe this isn't the first time. And if it's not, then you really have to look at what are your options in terms of what this person, what their future is with your partnership or your relationship, or whether their place with the company. But I find it really interesting to look at this, and when you break it down the question into little bits, there's a whole lot more to the story, I think, than we probably really know. But we could certainly give you advice and guidance on what we think you should do in terms of how to address it. You clearly can't let it go, and you clearly have to have a conversation with this person, as scary and challenging as that might be. But you also have to figure out what's the end game. What do you want? Do you want to try and figure out a way forward so that you can rebuild trust? Let them know you're aware and that this is going on and that you're not going to put up or tolerate it any longer. Or is this the beginning of the end? And in which case, how do you frame that conversation so that it is positioned in a way that says, this has broken my trust. I can't continue to work with you given what I know. So you said something that really caught my attention, which is, when confronted, almost everybody tries to justify it away, right? And it's kind of human nature to try and take back the defensive position and say, well, here's why I did it, or this is the circumstances, or it's not me, it's the situation or somebody else's fault kind of deal. But they don't ever take responsibility for it, nor the blame. And so once you've lost that, it's really hard to rebuild that. And so it really kind of comes down to, how big a lie was it, and how impactful was it, and what are you going to do carrying forward? And is trust even possible to be rebuilt?
I'm looking at it from multiple ways. If the person was here and I was having a conversation with him, I delve into language. I want to know what people's interpretation of language is before we even have that conversation. Here we are assuming.
Sure.
The confront is telling me, without any more data, that something happened, that person wrote this after they were really angry about something. And that's why they use the word confront. How do I just, confront it head on? Doesn't necessarily mean it's confrontational. It means it's looking at it straight in the face. So we could, assume that it could possibly mean that as well. That's the first thing. The second thing is, especially, how do you confront a liar? I'm going to push back on what you just said, because it's not the lie. He's calling the person a liar, which means a habit. It's a habitual way that a person deals with things, and they lie about it. So it is their modus operandi, so to speak, not just a single lie. And there's the difference. You're not confronting the lie. You're confronting the person who is habitually lying. There's a much bigger implication. If that person who is lying and perhaps habitually lying is the head of the company, then you make a decision whether or not you want to be associated with somebody like that if you don't trust them.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't know if they're lying about you, and that implicates your reputation, all of that. If the person is not above you in rank, then it's up to you to decide whether or not you want to either partner with them if they're equal, or even have them on staff. Because the bottom line is, you said, not to rock the boat if it's going to impact your clients and customers and all that. I have news for you. If you don't confront this, it
It will
definitely will.
eventually.
Because
Yeah.
at some point, the customers are going to know that your organization is not trustworthy
Yeah.
because it's going to come out in some way, shape, or form.
That's right.
And what's even worse is that it might have been happening for a while. They feel duped and they feel that the person who's in a position of leadership did nothing about it. And they will have nothing to do with you, nor if you move companies and they see that you're somewhere else in a similar field, will have anything to do with you because they will dub you based on that other individual's behavior. So it's not whether or not to confront this, it is when, which is pretty much now. The longer you wait, the more things start breaking down. There's absolutely no question in this. How do you do it? As I said, you confront the behavior, you confront the lie, you do not allow a crack to form where that person rationalizes the lie. I don't care what the reason is, you just don't lie. You need to trust the people that you work with enough that if you're in trouble, instead of lying about it so that they don't know that you're in so much trouble, that you tell them straight out and you let them help you get out of it
Mm-hmm.
without taking everybody else down with them. That is critical. If it is a behavior that's innate to the individual to the point where you're not going to be able to trust them, then you look for a way to sever relationship with them in a way that doesn't have legal implications, that you have just cause, that you've documented exactly what's gone on, and the trust factor is in there, and that's it. How to mitigate that, even during or even after, is to make sure you have a code of conduct for your organization. What is acceptable, what isn't. So it's a collective set of boundaries in the best way. And this is what I do with organizations, is actually create a leadership code within an organization that everyone co-creates, so they're a part of it and they live by it. And if they break that code, everyone knows they've broken that code and there are ramifications to it.
Yeah.
That's like, you have that foundational piece in there. It's going to be much easier in future to move past any issue like this and to be able to deal with it. That's, the best that I could do right now
Yeah.
without having the conversation with the individual. And all I could say is I urge you to act as soon as possible, not through emotion, as factual as you possibly can make it, with the indicator that you cannot continue working with somebody who you can't trust.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line. And if they don't deal with it now, it's going to haunt them for the rest of their lives. It's
Yeah.
that individual's failure, not yours.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great. I mean, and I'd also encourage this particular, member of our audience that posed the question, this is a unique situation, right? And it's not one that obviously is comfortable, or it's not one that you feel that comes up every day. But it's a big one, and it's an important one. Like Donna said, it can't just be allowed to happen or fester. I would offer, and I think Donna, you probably would, also agree. If you wanted to jump on a call and actually have a conversation about it, give us a little bit more detail and specifics, we could probably map out a little bit more of a kind of a unified strategy in terms of how to handle this particular situation. This one's just, there's a lot of open-endedness to the question and the situation. I mean, there's multiple impacts here, right? This is one of your co-founders, if it's impacting, your company, your brand, your reputation, your potential reputation, impacting, all of these aspects, there's a protocol and an approach that you might need to look at taking before you put this on the table. So we encourage you, reach out to us and let's have a little bit more of a direct conversation about it. It doesn't take away from the fact that, I love that you are considering the fact that you've reached a point that it needs to be, put on the table and it needs to be discussed. And we absolutely applaud you for that, because it's not something you want to tolerate. And it is important that you bring it to light and be able to have that conversation, because if that relationship, like Donna said, is important enough, then you've got to be able to find a way that you can, set new rules of the game, set that code of conduct, create that opportunity to have that conversation to say, I know that this is not true, and I need to be in a position where I can trust what comes out of your mouth or what you're going to do or how you're going to act going forward. My gut tells me that that's a pretty important aspect for your business. So anyway,
There's
I mean, this is a good one.
there's another point though that I want to make before we end our conversation, and that is the end of this statement. That person is an integral part of their company, and there's two ways of looking at that. If they're an integral part of the workings of the company because of their skills and expertise, I can guarantee you there are other people in this world that have similar skills that don't lie
Yeah.
while they do them. Number one. Number two, if that person's viewed as an integral part of the company, are you saying that lying is a part of the entire workings of the company? Because that's
Hmm.
exactly what you're saying. A person who's lying, who can't be trusted, is an integral part of the company. Now, is that a company you would want to work for? Are the high potentials and the real amazing next generation who are looking for jobs, do you think they're going to want to work for a company where a liar is an integral part of the company? And you better believe through the scuttlebutt, that's going to get around when people
Yeah.
start interviewing other people in the organization. Well, don't go near this person because they're not trustworthy. So just think of that statement that you made from all angles. Integral part of the company.
That's
What
right.
exactly
Yeah.
is integrity and authenticity an integral part of your company, or keeping somebody on who's a habitual liar? Keep
Yeah.
that in mind.
Great point. Great point. Well, I would definitely be anxious to hear what our audience has to say on this one because, like you said, this one's a little bit edgier. It's a
Yeah.
little bit more controversial, but an important one because I think we probably all have experienced this in our lives. At some juncture, whether it's our personal or professional career paths. So at any rate, how can folks get involved and share their 3 cents on this topic?
Go to our Facebook group. It's the best place to go because we post all our videos there. It's Inquiring Minds with Donna Carlin and Steve Harper. Obviously, our YouTube channel and a podcast on every platform imaginable. Tell us what your thoughts are and weigh in. We'd love to hear your opinions as well, which will help the person who posed this question in the first place.
Absolutely.
And if there's anything you'd like us to discuss, let us know that too. And we look forward to hearing from you.
Yep, absolutely. Well, I loved this topic, loved this conversation. Thanks for our audience member that actually put it on the table, and we hope to play some sort of small role in helping you get past this. But Donna, until the next time, thanks for joining me for another great conversation, and we'll be back again with another episode very soon.
Have a good one.